the idea for us has always been to sit at some point and give and give what we know. The only thing that we can give you out of this campaign is our experiences, and that's what we've tried to share. So we've also then went on to sit down and say, let's create a toolbox that you could use, and you can find the download link on the XtrClass page. There you get downloads to the things that we've summarized for you. We call it a campaign toolbox, or it's like how to win on campaigns. So what is in that campaign is an anatomy of a campaign, where we'll tell you, you have an instruction on how to build a campaign, what a good campaign looks like, and what a bad campaign looks like, and how to balance the two, and how to communicate effectively. I think no campaign will ever exist and will ever make any traction without finding the big picture. It's the big picture perspective is going to be part and parcel of a campaign that gets traction. You would need to define what is the cause. Also in that anatomy of a campaign, in the manifesto, you'd learn about a manifesto. What is a campaign manifesto? I think this is important because we had a manifesto for the How Far campaign, which we failed to in times of criticism, in times where you're not even sure about what's going to happen tomorrow, in times where we feared the worst could happen to our members. As Jay said, that we had social and economic justice ambassadors. These are ordinary people in the community who just stand for what we're trying to do. And our manifesto gave us direction. It also gave us direction in terms of safety and security. Jay touched on that if you're going to, especially if you're CEO, if you're CSO, and you're running a campaign that confronts the government, which many ought to do in this region, in our region in Africa, you are going to deal with safety and security issues. What I would tell you is it's something you need to budget for, but not just the budget. The budget doesn't work if you don't have a functional strategy on safety and security. I always work with my team on planning things that we may never get to. And one of the examples that you got was the Hillary Clinton example that Jay gave, where Hillary Clinton had a consolation speech and a victory speech. So the idea is, let's have a functional strategy on safety and security that speaks about what happens if this happens, how does it kick in, what even kicks in the emergency protocols that we have. And the other thing that you would want to do is have a campaign plan. So that will be in the toolbox as well. A campaign plan is important because, tell you a short story. So a dad was happy that his daughter was going to get married. So on the day of the wedding, he realized that his trousers, his pants were a bit too long. So he told his daughter that, I've just measured myself against these pants. I would need you to just remove 7 centimeters out of it. But the daughter was busy, so he told the son, can you do that? She said she was busy. He said he would do it at some point, but he got busy, so he told his wife. And all these people would not do it in time, but he would told them to do it. Eventually what happened is when they all got free, they got the trousers and they cut like 7 centimeters. Then everyone did that. At the point, he wouldn't fit into the pants. The idea is it's better for you to plan 9 times and cut once than to keep cutting on something that has already started. Yeah. And you should always have a plan B. Like I said, we still have a series of billboards that we never used in the campaign. Yeah. Equally good billboards that we could use tomorrow, but they were our plan B. You should plan that if everything fails, I'm coming this with plan B. If your resources permit, you have plan C even, because things don't always work the way we think they will. Some of the biggest campaigns that failed like flat on their feet is because they got traction. That's why we know the campaigns failed. So we know about the campaigns, but they failed to sustain the narrative once they launched. They did not have a plan B. And I'll never overemphasize the need for a budget. You need to budget for a campaign. If you don't even assume things, especially when it comes to cost, because the difference between ideas and execution is usually the cost. Once you've got the competence, once you've got the idea, once you've got the plan, you need to then fund that cost. So don't launch a campaign that you don't know how much it will cost you. You'd better know that you're set back this much and find ways to plug those holes, or even look for more money as you program or as you do the campaign. But you should be aware of how much it is, so that you don't fall in a trap where you can't move to the next step in your campaign because you can't afford it. But what you'd have done is you've built appetite from the audience in your campaign that we're going to a higher level, and unfortunately you can't go to the higher level because you can't afford it. And then campaigns, like anything else, you work with people. I've got high regard of my team at TBGA. I think they're the most amazing people that I've got. I've also realized that I spend 85% of my time with these people. So you've got to have very good people relations. People in your organization that are running a campaign, people in the department, they have to sacrifice themselves to it. They have to come to it with their core, with their heart and their souls. Those are the type of people that I would work with. But also, being a leader, you need to be able to manage them. You need to know that some of them get tired. Some of people are very good with the highlights. They love the highlights. They love it when the stuff is working. Some of the people in your team are detail-oriented. They love to make sure that we're sticking to the detail. So you've got a mix of people. But as a leader, be cognizant of the fact that at the end of the day, no matter how demanding the campaign is, you are working with people, and every human being has a limit. Plan for those limits and plan to excel. Yeah. I think those are my parting shot. Jay?
Yes. Of course, the toolbox is very loaded, and you need to go to the link. We will continue to unpack, the toolbox and how you can navigate the toolbox and launch your own campaign. But on the people bit, I just wanted to say, internally, you have the people that are running with the campaign. But for the campaign itself to run, it needs multitudes of people out there who believe in the cause, who believe in the why. Because if you're just going to run it on your own, there are very few people that are larger than life. So you need as many people. In our power is in mobilizing the masses, a huge number of crowd of people that are going to run with the campaign. And that is one of the big things that we'll talk about as we unpack the toolbox, to say, how do you mobilize the people? How do you keep them engaged? How do you ensure that you stimulate the urgency and people begin to run with the campaign on their own? So the campaign must become self-oiling in some way. And the way to oil it is having people that believe in the cause, that actually believe they can liberate themselves. There is freedom that they can get if they begin to act in the small steps that they can as individuals. And in my parting words, I would want to talk about expansion. If your campaign is not going to expand beyond you, beyond your borders, beyond your office, then you need to rethink it. What we saw with the How Far campaign was expanding beyond the borders.
True that.
Zambia had just held its elections. Their president, HH, had a 100-day plan. And at 100 days, we saw on Twitter, bombarded by How Far questions to HH on his promises. And we were like, wow. It was like the Zimbabwean situation, the How Far replicated in Zambia. And we supported that. We're like, this is it. This is what it should be in our region. Can we be able to set a standard? So your campaign must be able to set a standard beyond you, beyond the regions, beyond the borders, beyond the confines that you have. Who else, has it caught an eye on? So you must be able to build on that expansion. I think that was one of the key things, and we'll talk about that in the toolbox. There's the issue of legacy. When we launched the How Far campaign, what I said to the agency and to my team as well at Zimcod was that the How Far question is just not a street lingo thing. It's not just a lingo hack. It's not just a campaign that's going to be a bubble gum. How are we going to ensure that the campaign, of course, has a life cycle, but the questions are going to remain long-standing, and the answers that we're going to have will remain long-standing as well. So the issue of legacy, a campaign must have a legacy. It must shift certain things within the sphere. And for me, one of the biggest shifts that can ever happen in the political sphere, in the economic sphere, in everywhere you're working is a culture, a shift in culture. So you shift, you know, from intimidation to more agency. You shift from a culture of accountability, impunity, to more where where there are answers, where there is accountability and the like. So the issue of legacy was one of the key things in terms of shifting the status quo. And I think we'll talk about building legacy by using a campaign, which was one of the greatest lessons that we also learned. And we hope that through this extra class, you have learned quite a lot. It has been storytelling from our experiences in running the How Far campaign, a campaign that has literally won a global award around anti-corruption, because it was a context. It was really a brave campaign, a bold campaign, a story that we had to tell by putting the human face, by putting the human story, the experiences of people and what the people aspire to have and yearn to have, you know, in their day-to-day living. So you need to be aware that it's about inspiration, it's about legacy, it's about expanding intergenerational, and it's not just about today. Catch up in the next extra class.